So I'm a linguist. I research how we communicate in the workplace. And I've worked with Agile teams for years. What are Agile teams, you ask? It's a good question. You may have heard the term Agile or any of these related buzzwords in different contexts before. In professional contexts, Agile ways of working have become very popular since in the early 2000s, a group of software developers came up with the so-called Agile Manifesto. And they proposed ways of developing software which include lots of technical aspects, but also organizational practices, empowering people to take ownership of work processes and workflows, working in self-organized teams, reflecting regularly on work processes and workflows, preferably in face-to-face settings and using direct communication. As linguists, we can look at these communication processes and we can see that they might not be as direct as you would think. They're in fact ratified bit by bit throughout an interaction. As linguists, we approach this topic making audio and video recordings of workplace interactions. So in my PhD, I recorded over 52 hours of workplace interactions with an Agile team working with Scrum. Over 90 meetings ranging in different size and length, one-on-one for 15 minutes to 13 people talking for over 2.5 hours. In a current project at Lucerne School of Business, we focus on video recordings. And we work with Agile teams in different organizations, and we've recorded a number of meetings in each team. We find that in Agile workplaces, communication is in fact critical. Now, linguists who study workplace communication are interested in how teams communicate. I'm interested in how Agile teams communicate. Among themselves, with developers, with users, and of course with researchers. How are different perspectives included in development processes? How do teams reflect on work processes and workflows? How do they talk about what went well and what didn't in any work cycle? Because of course sometimes things don't go to plan. And sometimes you find out much too late that things didn't go to plan for someone on your team. So imagine the last time you were behind with something on a timeline or a task, and it was important for everyone on your team to know that. Did you tell them? Was there a space for you to do that? Or did you create one? And when you finally did say it, how did you say it? Did you say it outright, straightforward? Or was it difficult to be so direct? And how did the others take up your point? Were they supportive? Did they offer help? And did you reach a decision quickly? Or did it take you a very long time? These are the kinds of questions we as linguists are interested in. We study the structure of conversations. We look at how decisions are reached, difficult requests are made. We also look at how these conversations are embedded in broader conversations around communication at work, how we create stories and identities for our organizations, our teams, and ourselves, how we talk our professional selves into being through language, through what we say, and how we say it. So just now I asked you a question about teamwork, and we all know that teamwork is challenging. Agile teams are all about making the team work. Non-hierarchical teams set up for self-organizing, reflecting regularly, refining, improving all the time. But how does that really work when it comes to communication processes? How do they accomplish this linguistically? As linguists, we put conversations under the linguistic microscope. By doing this, we can better understand how Agile teams communicate. We can look at what makes the team work. And in order to see what's really going on, we transcribe the talk. What they say and how they say it. And we look at the way they do this through our linguistic lens. What do we see when we put the talk of Agile teams under our microscope? This is what we see. You don't need to be able to read it, it's fine. You can see that there are a number of people talking, different lengths of turns, right? This is a paraphrase of a conversation, so we've made it a little easier to read. But in order to really see what's going on, we magnify the view even further. And then it looks like this. This is in German, but it doesn't matter. So you can just see someone starting to ask a question, multiple parts, in the context of planning and allocating tasks. But you can't really see the question, can you? And you can't see a straightforward answer either. So a basic question-answer structure that we're used to is something like, okay, should we proceed planning? Yes. In linguistics, we call this an adjacency pair. But authentic patterns of communication often don't really look like that. And when we put conversations under the microscope, we can see line by line that it takes a while for a question to be fully asked and for an answer to be fully answered. They're building blocks that come together over longer periods of time as different people contribute to decision-making processes. And it's difficult to detect this unless we freeze it in a transcript like this. So we scrutinize our transcripts to identify patterns. How requests, responses, decisions come together and follow decision-making processes at the micro level of interaction. So we can see who contributes and who doesn't, who talks when and who doesn't. How often do they talk? Are decisions reached? How are they reached? Or are they not? How is conflict navigated, discussed, postponed? And we can see what it looks like when there's not just a cooperative approach to conversations, going along with what people say, but a collaborative approach, joint problem solving. So we analyze our corpora for patterns of teamwork, and for Agile teams, the pattern looks something like this. So Agile teams often use digital task boards to navigate planning and task allocation processes. We add a layer to our transcript to indicate what's happening on the screen. We also add a layer to our transcript to indicate what happens non-verbally. So we have a layer for non-verbal communication as well. And we can see in hybrid or online settings, but especially hybrid meetings, the screen becomes central to communication processes. And non-verbal communication actually takes a less prominent role. So the orientation to a digital task board makes the talk efficient, even if there are no or little non-verbal cues. Incorporating writing together and planning together in real time also helps. So Agile teams use multimodal resources to put this joint ownership of processes into practice. Agile teams also regularly reflect on their work processes and workflows, on what goes well and what doesn't. And they use digital tools for that, or something as rudimentary as Post-its. And this allows formalizing contributions. So forcing everyone to bring in their views, and it includes technical aspects, but also how they work together as a team. So using Post-its or digital boards allows Agile teams to bring together these contributions in a form of embodied interaction. Using Post-its and digital task boards, gathering around them, is this sort of embodied collaboration. And it allows to observe and discuss your ideas from a different perspectives, as our linguistic microscope allows us to combine writing and talking into our analyses. Now, in our studies, we see that Agile teams create confined spaces to talk about how your work is going, what's needed to get the job done, to reflect on what went well and what didn't in a work cycle, and what can improve in the next one. So this places a really high value on communication in the workplace. In fact, it makes it explicitly a part of everyday work. So the opportunity to be upfront about where you are with your work, things that are going well, but also things that are not going well, is always there. To speak without fear of judgment, to say, I'm late, it's not going well, how can we solve this? Can we help? And when it works, and teams have established a routine and a joint commitment to this method, Agile team members take ownership individually, but also collectively. Formulate contributions to find solutions that work for everybody. That also presents an opportunity to highlight things that go well. And our linguistic lens shows that when professionals have established a routine in their workplace communication, they're able to moderate themselves as well. And skilled moderators are able to rein people in or encourage people to speak. So facilitate these joint decision-making processes. It's important to facilitate these processes strategically, so to ensure that decisions are reached when they're needed. Because by trying to incorporate lots of perspectives and contributions, there's also a danger that discussions become too lengthy and lose focus. So people talking and talking and talking. To improve efficiency, overall commitment from the team to these highly transparent and collaborative processes is really important. But it takes time. It takes time for these processes to become established routines, and there is a slightly different approach for every team that works. And I'm not saying that you all need to start working in an agile way. There are about as many ways of doing that as there are agile teams. But I'm saying that agile practitioners have found ways to make space for communication in the workplace that helps them improve their workflow and their teamwork. And I think that we can all take something away from this. If you're familiar with agile ways of working, consider this. Make sure that your team members are on board. And if they're not, find out what they need so they can be. And give it time. Make sure that there's someone who knows how to facilitate these processes strategically, who knows how to structure conversations and ensures that these collaborative decision-making processes work. Multiple perspectives are included, but not lose track of the conversation. Make sure that it doesn't go round in circles. Now, if this is the first time that you've heard of agile ways of working, consider this. All teams need spaces to reflect, to refine their work, and improve together. You can foster a culture of learning in your organization, in your teams, through encouraging feedback and transparency regarding things that go well, but also things that don't. And this communication is direct in principle, but it's not always direct in practice. That doesn't mean, though, that it's not effective. It's just agile talk. And if you remember one thing about the science of communication, make it this. There's more to talk at work than just talking about work. So think strategically about how and when you do this. And create spaces to talk, to reflect, to refine, and to change collaboratively. Thank you.